Tuesday, April 8th, the town of Madison public hearing for budget for fiscal 26 is now in session. I'm going to go through with a presentation. At the end, there were some questions from our previous meeting. I will relay those answers, and then I'll ask if there's any comments from the public, either virtually or in person. First, I'd like to recognize a few people that either online or in person. Scott Murphy, I saw Scott here, and I'll go over. Sorry. You can wave, you can stand up, you can say hello.
It's embarrassing.
I know Jim Gordon is online, virtually, and I'm sure Bruce Wilson is also. Of course, we have our first selectman, Peggy Lyons here. Hi, Peggy.
Hello.
We also have our chair of our board of ed, Seth Glassman. I saw Seth virtual. So I just want to thank everyone for being here. As far as the Board of Finance, I'm John Picard. I'm the chair. To my right is Matt Gordon, the vice chair. We have Bob Donahue and Jude Hessian and John Muller virtually. So I want to say thank you for being here. And then to my left is Katie Stein and John Rasmus. So I want to thank all of them for their work that they've done and for being here either virtually or in person tonight. I'm going to go through the budget process, what our goals are, the budget overview. And at the end, we'll have, as I said before, public comment. And Gene, I don't know if you can go through these slides with me. Or not today. There you go. Keep going. All right. There you go. You can stay right there. Thanks, Chief. We tried. We put it up there. I thought it was up there.
No, we got nothing.
It doesn't work.
Okay.
Why don't we tilt it a little bit so both can see it? Yeah.
Tilt that. The only reason I need to see it, Scott, if we're not on the same page, you can just throw your shoe at it.
It's all good. I got you.
There you go. Yeah, I don't have copies.
All right.
Perfect. No, that's great.
All right, there we
Thank
go. Thank you. So the budget process from September to December, the town of Madison Public Schools, they hold their budget discussions. In January, the first selectwoman, Peggy Lyons, submits the town staff's recommended budget. The Board of Education recommends their budget to the town. And then in February, the Board of Selectmen, they delivered on the budget. The Board of Ed gives a presentation to the town, and then there's a public hearing jointly between the BOS and the BOA and the recommended budget presentations. Then it becomes, after that time, the Board of Finance deliberates on the budget in March. Then we have this public hearing, and then in May, there'll be a referendum, and the next day will be, the mill rate will be set by the Board of Finance. So that's the process, and a very quick synopsis. So our Board of Finance goals, obviously we know we have community needs, we have economic conditions, we really want to minimize the mill rate impact to our taxpayers. There are long-range financial planning. You'll hear some of this as you go through this presentation. In the short term, the abbreviation is MIP, but it's the Madison Investment Plan. It's budget forecast, and it's how to really smooth out the highs and the lows when it comes to, the mill rate increases. It's also a commitment to our, investment to our capital assets, and we also have a plan for the debt service. I know that's been talked about periodically through all our meetings. We do have a plan for the debt service, largely in part to our mid plan, and I do want to notify Stacy Novitz and Kristen for being here, but the whole finance department. Thank you for all you do. Yes, you need to make on the floor. As we talk about this, I know Stacy worked hard with this, and Kristen, and our first selectman, Peggy Line. So thank you for the mid plan. So as I said, we have a plan for debt service, and we also want to sufficiently fund our CIP, our capital improvement program. The reason we want to keep doing that, we don't want to be in a situation where 5, 10, 15 years from now, we're back where we started. So we want to, as best we can, to keep up with our maintenance of our buildings and plans in place. While we're doing that, we want to create stability in our property taxes. And of course, we have to continue to support the operations of both the town and the BOE. So if we go to the next slide, all right. So the Board of Finance recommended budget. So the town operational budget recommended was $27,195,833. Change of that doesn't include the capital budget and town debt service. So the total town budget would be $35,307,161. So there's a town operational budget of $653,889, which is about 2.5% increase. The town debt service, so The debt service went up by 919. It did, the capital budget we reduced by 240. So the total increase in the town budget was 133,062, which is a 3.92% increase, which includes the increase in our town debt service. The Board of Education had their operational budget had a increase of 1,559,716, so $1.5 million. They did have a debt service reduction, and this is the last time. For whatever reason, in Madison, the debt service for the Board of Ed was on the Board of Ed side. I think everybody on the Board of Finance and everybody on this team agrees it never should have been. These are town buildings, but that debt service dropped off because high school's paid for now. So, but going forward, all the debt service will be on the town side. But obviously, the Board of Ed, the town, we're all one entity. So the total Board of Education budget with the reduction in debt service was $1,192,516, increase of 1.87%. So the total town education budget was $100,144,833, an increase of $2.5 million approximately, and a 2.59% increase. So the next slide is what's driving the 1.3 million town budget increase. As you can see on that slide, almost half the town budget growth was increased debt service and continued funding for capital projects. So 51% was debt service and capital projects. And of course, the 919 does not include the debt service reduction from high school bonds. And then you have the personnel related costs, was 32% of the budget increase, largely because of collective bargaining agreements. Obviously, everybody here knows things have gone up exponentially since a few years ago with COVID. So when negotiating contracts, obviously the inflation gets factored in, the cost of living adjustments. So what was 0%, 1% just a few years ago has increased to 3s and 4s. I really want to spend a minute on the annual capital funding. So to the next slide. So this kind of represents our MIP plan in a nutshell. If you look on these figures here, if you look at the CIP, which is the top one, the 5,433,000, that's our capital improvement budget. That we kind of, even before this, kind of front load a little bit because we knew we were going to have debt service that we were going to have to undertake. So we started to put more into the CIP plan, even if you look prior to fiscal 25 and fiscal 24 and fiscal 23. That's when we started this process. And you can see the CIP budget starts to go down. And the reason for that, obviously, we know we're putting in a new school, which is almost done. But the reason that the CIP budget was higher and then lower, so we could fund some project, yes. But also we knew we had debt service we had to undertake. So the debt service, as you can see, starts to steadily increase up until fiscal 30, and the CIP plan is reduced. The average annual increase is still 4%. So when people talk about the debt service, were we aware of it? Yes. When the referendum passed, we knew we were going to have to undertake the debt service. Thanks to Stacy and her team and Peggy, they put this plan together. So you can see the annual increase is 4%. So we're trying to be mindful of that and still, be able to do the project we want to do with the new school and keep the, as I said, the tax rate and the mill rate reasonable as best we can. So this is important. This is all part of the MIP plan, the Madison Investment Plan, and this is something we've been working on for several years. So I wanted to highlight that. The next slide is the town of Madison, the CIP expenditures by department, and the Board of Finance, fiscal year ended from 2026 to 2030. So the total capital expenditures for fiscal 26 is 8,233,000, and then you will see they start to be reduced as time goes on until you get to 2930. Still trying to do our projects, beach restoration, general growing facilities, all being mindful that we have a debt service increase over the next number of years. The town of Madison, the next slide, the Board of Finance recommended expenditures for fiscal 26. So as I said earlier, the recommended budget is 35,307,161. That's a change from last year of 1,033,000, which is, as we went through before, over 50% capital CIP and debt service, and then that percent change is 3.92. The Board of Education budget is 64,837,672, with a 1,192,516 increase from last year, with 1.87% increase in terms of percentage. The total budget is 100,144,833, with a 2.59% increase. So that's I think the Board of Ed and the town did a very good job holding this budget, doing the best they can. So we do appreciate that. Town of Madison, the projected revenue, just a couple things to undertake here. So we have intergovernmental revenue. Basically, this is, municipal revenue sharing, LoCIP, which is local capital improvements, pilots, payment of taxes. So that has increased, and we've gone through a history of what we're receiving. So we've increased that revenue. That's a 36% change. Interest from our fund balance. Everybody talks about spending the fund balance. Well, you hold on to the fund balance, you can use the interest every year because it's reoccurring. So this is basically roughly about 50% of our 5-year average. So we increased that. The Board of Finance felt very comfortable increasing that because it's a reoccurring revenue. So that increased by $200,000. And anybody who's realized interest rates over the last year and a half ago went up. This takes into effect, they've come down a little bit. So that's a percentage change of 12.5%. And then we have other revenue. This is building permits, conveyance, real estate conveyance. So those have increased by $192,000. So that's the increase in revenue we received and we're budgeted for, projected to receive, and we're budgeted for this year. Now we'll go through the budget history. The town budget in fiscal 21 was a 5%. You could read this 3.74, 6.77, and then 4.78, 4.24. This year it's 3.92. The Board of Education, as you can see, 1.87, which is, below the 3.03 and 2.52 from the previous year. So I said earlier, people are really mindful of what, the things that we want to do, but also overly relying on expenses. So total combined budget increases was 2.18 and 2.04. Again, that was COVID and just the tail end of COVID. And as things escalated up a little bit, but this year is at 2.59. The mill rate change, pretty much 2% or under. You see that negative 26.59. I don't want to be misleading there. That's the reevaluation. So that's why that came down because of reval. The town of Madison does have a digital budget book. I've seen it's excellent. So we have the 2026 web-based budget, includes links to the recommended budget, strategic plan, the CIP program, which is capital improvement program, and of course the Madison investment plan. So you can go there, click on that, and receive the information without me, dictating it to you. You can receive it yourself. So don't laugh, Katie. I know that's what you're going to do. I've looked at it also. Nice. The mill rate for fiscal 26, the town of Madison budget is $100,140.33. We have not, obviously, we cannot set the mill rate yet. We have to wait till after the public hearing. The referendum, excuse me. But we're hoping to keep it right around a 2% increase. So the tax example they gave you, if you have 100,000 assessment, the mill rate is 22.44. You pay taxes on that, 22,244. This does include the assumptions of using 50% of our 5-year average of the interest and 500,000 from the fund balance. That may change a little bit either way, but our goal is to keep the mill rate at 2%. And I can speak for the board because we've had multiple discussions on that. The town referendum is May 6th, and the Board of Finance will set the mill rate the next morning, depending on how the town referendum goes on May 6th. So there were some questions that were asked at the last presentation a few weeks ago. I want to read the answers, and I'm sorry, but if we were going from 6 schools to 4, I just want, if people ask questions, even ask them tonight, we don't have the answers, we want to go back, we will get you the answers. We will email them to you, we will post them on our website, we will get you the answers. The question, if we're going from 6 schools to 4, why aren't we saving more money like the previous reorganization? So the answer is this, and this comes from the Board of Ed and Dr. Cook and his team. During the early discussions of this reorganization, we made it clear there would not be a significant savings to the operating budget. We carried that discussion point through all presentations of the proposed referendum and have continued that since the passing of the referendum. The overall reason is that the reorganization was not to take advantage of declining enrollment like the previous one. This reorganization was related more to facilities. It was determined that it would be significantly more expensive to bring Jeffrey and Ryerson up to modern day facilities. Roofs that don't leak, air conditioning, air quality issues, et cetera. Handicap accessibility, go down the list. Then to build a new school and address Brown. Building new had been the direction for the town with a number of years, as illustrated by the previous failed referendum for a new Ryerson. With this budget are basically equally staffed in additions and reductions. This was presented to the Board of Education. Those slides are attached. Additionally, we'll have a similar amount of square footage in use as a district, just in less buildings. So the buildings are obviously a little bit bigger, same square footage, are very similar, just less buildings. As we've shared in the past, Brown School does not fully utilize the 300 wing until next year when it opens a pre-K-5 school. We also now have a home for preschool, which was a temporary classrooms on town campus. That was the answer to question one. There was another question. How much funding goes towards athletics versus academics? Answer attaches our total athletic budget, which is not attached here, but we have to talk about the digital budget. I'd like to point out that this time we were one of 4 towns at the conference who still charges pay for participation. This payment from parents is used to offset the athletic transportation budget. Additionally, we have decreased enrollment. We have decreased athletic teams such as freshman teams at DHHS. Last question that I remember that was that evening, pretty sure there's 3, provided comparison of the district's budget compared to the other towns beyond those just provided. At this time, we are the 4th lowest request in the state. Derby, Sherman, lower. We would do the lowest in any other comparison, whether it's Shoreline or New Haven County. Below is how we are compared to academics. It's the most common comparison group, which Dr. Cook, who's not here with us right now, and shared with us, and he actually came to our last Board of Finance meeting to go through all this with us, and we do appreciate that. So it was Cheshire, Fairfield, Woodbridge, Monroe, Guilford, Trumbull. They all averaged over 5%, and they have Farmington, Avon, Glastonbury, Simsbury, Fairfield, Brookfield, Amity. All 3% was the lowest, 3.16, going up to as high as 4.65. So I did want to answer those questions. I did want people aware of it. And even tonight, there's some comments that come out. We'll take notes and we'll get back. So with that, that was the presentation. I'd like to see if anybody from the public first would like to make a comment or get the VOF. So either virtually or in person. If you do, please state your name and address for the record. Anybody from the public would like to speak? Name and address, please.
Hi, Janet Nicolini from 8 Madison Avenue. My question is regarding the pre-K. Is the pre-K tuition based? So are parents paying for their kids to go to pre-K? I didn't see any revenue line item in the budget to account for any income from pre-K. How is that incorporated into the budget?
So the question is, and I mentioned Dr. Cook is family matter.
I can
Go ahead,
I can
Stacy.
answer that. That is included in the Board of Ed budget as an offset. So if you look at the details in the Board of Ed budget, you'll see a credit for TCLC revenue for preschool.
So it's that, not having it in front of me now, does it offset
It offsets the expenditures.
completely? Is it?
Not completely, because in part, the pre-K program has special education mandates that go with it. So there's a population of students that attend from birth to 3 and transition into our pre-K programs. That's 3 and 4-year-olds. And then we have typical peers that are a match for those students.
So they get to go, because they're peers, they get to go.
They have services that are provided through the program.
Okay.
So the special ed
Special
students do not pay. The
Right.
typical peers,
That's our obligation as a board.
it's the state requires special ed for kids students to be educated.
Thanks, Gail and Stacy. Any other questions?
Terry Van Older, Bartlett Drive. Going back to the question of, because we consolidated and went from 3 schools to 2, you would expect to see a rendering of savings in the budget. And a couple of the items in particular, the electricity went up $204,526. But the new Neck River School has geothermal, right?
Yes,
Does it have solar as well?
Not yet.
not yet.
Okay, but so why would there be $204,000 more expected, needed in the budget? When you've got that level of efficiency for the new school? Not to mention that you've gone from 3 schools to 2. And in addition to that, sorry, the transportation has gone up 54,000 for busing when you've gone from 3 schools to 2. Why is that?
I can help, I think. Hi.
Good.
So our electric as a district went up just as much as our homes did. 18% increase in electric across the district. So that was a substantial increase. And even though Neck River is geothermal, we are looking forward to solar panels in the future, but we have to establish the roof and the warranty before we put on solar panels to recognize that savings. But that's something that we're pursuing as a group. In terms of busing, our bus runs are just as many students from just as wide of a district as we've always had. And even though the number of buildings have decreased, the numbers of runs have not, and the timing of the buildings opening and closing have not either. So our costs remain the same. I don't think there's anything that Pete would add to that. I'm looking back at my friend Pete on the facilities. Is there anything you want to add?
No, we talked about you talked about the increase in power, and then we're also going at this point off estimates of what the electrical use would be. So we're taking it on the conservative side just to be sure that we cover ourselves with a new building.
So because the building's not up and running yet, they're not there.
That's correct. And also, we're going to be up to assuming some of the commissioning of the building, where the buildings will not be running as efficient, probably close to 3/4 of the year. Part of.
I was just to say, you also are reflecting half a year of the other two buildings.
Right.
That's
So,
correct.
because
Yeah.
then it
Or
comes over
maintaining
the
the
town
buildings.
side, and then we see a bump in our usage because the town takes after 6 months.
I think, yeah, correct. I mean, the better gauge would be in a couple of years when the solar opens up and running and the school's operational for a year or two, you have some history. But electricity went up substantially, I know. My house also.
There's one other line item on the Public School Board of Ed budget, which is $274,000 for an additional administrator.
Yeah, with Neck River being the size that it is, it's almost 635 students. We need more than one administrator for Neck River. So we have an
Vice
assistant
principal.
principal. We have a principal already at Jeffrey, but we need an addition of an assistant principal at Neck River.
And is that the salary?
No, the difference between this,
What makes up that 274 that you're looking at, but that is not the salary for the new administrator.
So it must be raises plus salary.
Contractual,
contractual increases across the board were 2.13%. They are the highest driver of the budget.
So one thing I just want to bring to your all's attention, you probably are aware of this already, but I was astounded to find out that literally 1/3 of registered voters in this town are 65 or older. And I'm in that category. And I tell you, it's a big shock to go to a fixed income where you don't even know if you're going to get a 2% income. So when you're trying to maintain a 4% increase in the budget, there's 1/3 of your population that's paying taxes. And that doesn't actually even include those who are registered as residents out of state, but have property here and are paying taxes. So the number is actually higher than 1/3 of the taxpayers are on fixed income of some type. And we don't even know what's going to happen to our social security. That's devastating. I mean, it was a shock to me to go from having a salary to, whoa, social security, that's all I'm getting for working for 43 years. So if we're looking at 4% is not a big deal, it is a big deal to a large chunk of people in this town. So you have to think of that every single budget, because it's a lot of people.
Really appreciate that. I don't think the words 4% is not a big deal ever came out of my mouth, and that's.
No,
really-
I'm
I'm just-
not saying that,
I'm
but
just saying, I understand, I'm very sympathetic, and I'm family also, so I understand that. So we're very mindful of that, and that's, there was a lot of work to do this, and unfortunately, even for a town like your own household, things have escalated price-wise. Whether you have to buy food or whatever it is, things have gone up substantially over the last few years. So I understand, really do.
and when you see the shock in your bank account, like, how am I gonna stay here? Well, I think there's a lot of people in that category.
Thank you. Anybody else? The
I
audience?
have another one
I'm gonna
if
see if
there's no one
anybody
else.
Jane, does anybody virtually like to speak?
Nobody online has raised their hand.
Janet, because I'm being really, no, sorry. Normally I wouldn't say twice, but go ahead, go right ahead.
I actually have questions on 3 specific line items. I'll do them all at once. So, so the biggest percentage increases in line items is what I really looked at. So the first selectman office increased by 85,261, which is a 42% increase. The general government operations went up by almost 50% to $943,000. What is that? And then engineering is a new item at $290,000. What is that?
First selectman, you want to take your first selectman, Bill?
Well, last year we did a reorganization and we included a position called the communications manager. It came to we took a part-time position from the technology budget and we added it as a full-time position in the first selectman's office. So it's a new position. This was in last year's budget. And now you're seeing the full year impact of the communication manager position.
The
And then,
increase,
I'm
the
sorry,
9.3
the
has to be
engineering
debt
was the same thing. We
Public
had,
Works was split
Yeah.
out, engineering, Public Works. So whatever engineering is going up, Public Works is going down.
and that's all that last year reorganization. Now you're seeing the full year impact in the budget.
And the increase of the 943 was, I talked about the increase of the debt service, which is now all on the town side. It used to be split in them. We used to actually, the Board of Ed used to have a debt service for their schools.
Oh,
Yes.
so that's the general government operations line item? That's
General
where
government
they-
operations is responsible for the debt service of the
That's-
town.
Okay, that wasn't clear yet.
But yeah, I'm sorry, I thought there was a slide that showed that. Yeah, so the town debt service increased by 919,928.
And that's in.
That's in the town budget, not the Board of Ed budget.
General budget, general operations line item.
And then, general government includes a variety of things. It includes our liability insurance. It includes, what are the other big dues, fees? I don't know what makes up the actual increase, but the general government category has a multiple of accounts. And I'm not sure what the total increase that you're looking at, so we can certainly provide you the breakdown.
We'll give you the breakdown for.
Yeah, I mean, if debt service is in there, that makes sense.
I'm not sure if it's what you're looking
No.
at.
So she's talking about the town operational budget or the town budget in general?
General government.
General government
Actually,
line
so
item
debt service is.
went up by
Yeah,
50%.
debt service is separate. Debt service is part of the town budget. So the
Yeah.
town operational was increased by 653,889.
Yeah,
And
that's a
that's-
big jump.
Correct. So
Oh,
that could be health insurance, it could be
and also.
OPEB, other post-employment benefits. Go ahead.
Yeah, and also what's in that number, a big piece of the general government is any contractual increases on salary or COLA for employees. So rather than showing the contractual increases in the individual departments, it's lumped in the general government.
And a lot of times you do that because during negotiations, if you put X, they're gonna see it, so you put it as a general number.
Right, but I'm reacting to the increase over last year, so that has always been, right? So,
No, it's
No, it
different
goes
every
up,
year.
no.
Is
Correct.
it, if it's a contract that is not finalized, that number will be in the general government. If it, in the general government category, if it is a known contractual increase, that will be in the department. So it depends when we're going back out for negotiations. If it's a 3-year contract, we already know those 3 years, that will be in the department. If it's not, or we're just starting negotiations, that will be in the general government. So you have to look at salaries as a whole versus by department in the entire.
And the reason you put it as a whole, because if everybody knows there is no negotiation, if you already put 3 or 4% in there, there is no negotiation, so you put that as a whole in the general government side.
And we do have an outstanding contract with one of our collective bargaining units right now.
And the PD is included in your town operational side and public works. Any other questions? Anybody from the virtual, Gene?
Somebody's got their hand up.
Am I
Go
unmuted?
ahead, Donna.
Oh, hi. Donna DeBaldo, 914 Durham Road. First of all, I've been involved with budgets for 40 years in my career in education. I understand all the work that goes into this, and I do appreciate all that you have done in public service. That being said, I want to echo the concern as somebody significantly over 65 in that 1/3 of the population, and not only because of the increase in costs, but also the uncertainty and the national and world global economy right now. I'm very nervous about the future and hoping to stay in this town with my family, my extended family. But I also have a question for you. And I think we're talking about 2%, but I also want a comment, a question. I think what has to be understood is that that increase is compounded every year. So when we say it's 2%, but then it's 2% upon the new budget and then 3% upon that budget. So over time, it's a significant increase. It's not just a 2% from one year to another. Those are my two comments. But my question is the academy part of this? The additional expenses in the academy, is that included in this? Or I know you've got the grants. I did attend that by Zoom, so I understand all that. But I'm just wondering if that is included or in addition to.
So, thank you, one, for your comments. I do appreciate that. We understand the uncertainty in the world right now, and I think we're all very sympathetic there. As far as the academy, there's no positions there. So there is a little bit of debt service that was already issued. So there's nothing new in that side at all with the academy.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Dean? I don't see anybody.
No one on, raising their hand.
We're finance, I'm assuming, okay?
I just want to make one comment that.
You can make all the comments you want, Stacey, go ahead.
The digital budget book, do not look tonight. It should be up by noon tomorrow. We're still working on it to the hours. Later on.
So the budget book should be ready
Back to
tomorrow.
What's the digital budget book?
Oh, it's gonna be online now. The budget book is gonna be online. It's gonna be interactive. You can go look by department. It's
Yeah,
wonderful.
did you listen to my presentation? It's on there.
It's on there, but not
Wait,
until.
I just want to clarify. Do I still get a binder?
No.
Yes, I'm submitting it.
Well, Stacy,
You're gonna-
Stacy, to Janet's point, though, this is something that's newer, right?
Oh, very new.
Brand new.
Right.
Yeah, so this is something
This year.
that's.
Just joking with you.
We're literally still working on it. It's not even hot off the press yet.
But it's a great program that offers transparency, so you can go through and see everything with good detail.
And to defend Stacy, we haven't set the expenses officially.
Right.
But it's
Right
just,
after that.
it's just final budget, so, right? Not work in progress?
For this year,
We're gonna
yes.
set the expenditures,
Yeah.
hopefully time.
But the intention is, this will get evolved over time
working
and roll it out
document.
throughout the whole budget process. It's a great program. A couple of towns started using it and we saw it and we said we should have it. So I think we're all, even us having looked at these budgets for a long time, it'll be nice to have a little bit more simplistic way to dig into.
I liked it a lot, so. Thank you. Any other, Board of Finance, you want to just wait till, anybody have a comment on there? Okay, Board of Selectmen,
Thank you for everybody's hard work.
anybody else on the Board of Finance virtually? We're gonna have our meeting in 15 minutes. All right, that being said, this budget hearing for the Board of Finance is now closed. Thank you for your time, and we have a 1-minute break, because now we have to go into